So you have attended a read and you love overlanding. You have plans to do it big on the trace and some super glamping. One ideas, deep news and reviews, a podcast the first rate and here just for you. You don't have to think about it, join us and be about it. Something interesting we want to hear about it, come on let's talk about it. Welcome to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints podcast.
Sponsored by Midland, communication for every adventure, the industry leader in radio communication technology and innovation for over 50 years. Sponsored by MyMedic. Sponsored by TEMBOTUSK. Sponsored by Shower Pouch. Sponsored by DeMoss Collective, mission built and made for mobility. Sponsored by BrewTrek. Sponsored by Hard Impact Designs.
Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
What's up, Mike? Welcome
Hello,
back.
Phil. Oh, welcome. Well, good to be back. Good to be back. Coming off of a rough week.
So we're going to talk about that. So you're in the States now.
I am in the States. I apologize in advance for you listeners out there. If you notice, my voice is a little raspy, and I just came off of a little bout, I think, with the flu, and I will call it post-Overland Expo traumatic voice injury. As you know, we talk a lot there, so a lot of speaking and a lot of shaking hands, and it was a tough weekend. So and by the way, somebody just told me it was Friday today, so I'm like, holy hell, that was last weekend already.
Wow, it does seem like it was a few days ago, and I wasn't even there.
Sure does.
So, is there anything that happened that stuck out to you?
You mean at
Probably,
Overland?
yes.
I mean, it was kind of par for the course in Flagstaff. It was well, let me tell you, the thing that stuck out most, first and foremost, for those of you that were in attendance know this. I think I confirmed this now with I was on a panel with Roseanne Hanson, the founder of Overland Expo. I had to ask her, I go, how many years, because this is the 15th anniversary, how many years have I been here if Mormon Lake was the first one I ever went to? And so I think we've confirmed that this is my 13th year. And I will tell you, it was the best weather I have seen possibly at any Overland Expo I've ever been at, in any location. So that was an oddity. As you know, Phil, the weather can be sketchy at best usually.
Yeah, so let's break down the weather the way you just described it. Usually when we go to Overland Expo East, you're definitely going to get some rain, at least one day of rain. It may be sunny, but you're going to get some rain during there. And it gets cold fast at night.
Yeah.
Mountain West is probably the hottest by far. It's burning hot every day, and it's pretty nice at night. Once it gets to about 7 o'clock, it's pretty decent, but it's very warm for that time of day. Pacific Northwest, we've had like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, a little bit.
Rain, dust, wind, everything. So, and it hasn't been around long enough for us to decide what the weather usually is like.
Yeah.
Then with West, it's usually hot during the day, nice enough to have a party or whatever, but about 2 o'clock in the morning, it gets cold as can be. And like you, I've gone to a bunch of these Overland Expos, and I've had everything from torrential rains, snow, blizzard, mud, And those are just the things that I can think of off the top of my head.
And occasionally all of those in the same year.
Yes.
Yep. So this year it was 75-ish degrees during the day and sunny.
Wow.
There was a little bit of wind, but I wouldn't call it a lot. It was nice. And at nighttime, it was sweatshirts and whatnot overnight, but it never got super cold. Very pleasant. Yeah. Amazing.
And what was your role at Overland Expo this year?
So this year, I changed it up a little bit. Typically, in past years, I have been in the showcase and DIY section with the vehicle. This year, I shared a booth, first time ever, with TEMBOTUSK and Outdoor by 4 magazine. So I was officially in the vendor area, which was super spectacular to share the booth with those guys. It was a great time. Frank and Jerry and the crews were great. And our booth location is on concrete. And as you know, in West, it can get very dusty and stuff. So where we were located was just super ideal.
Yeah, where you guys were is one of maybe 2 or 3 of the prime spots in the whole place.
Absolutely.
So let's back up just a little bit, because everybody who listens doesn't know the little details about Overland Expo. So Fred Ledwell is who?
Outdoor by 4 magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And he is the publisher of that. So he was there in the booth. So basically what we did was we put 2 pretty big booths together, and that facilitated putting my truck in it. So we used my truck sort of as the backdrop and as a traction getter, because you got to remember, we're right by what's nice about that booth is right by the entrance where everybody comes in. So they basically walk down and you look over and you can see the truck. They come around the corner there. So that's where TEMBOTUSK and Outdoor by 4 magazine and I were. So it was a great location. Really, the traffic was amazing. We just got, it was very, very busy.
Okay. And for just, I like to cover the details just in case someone new listening. TEMBOTUSK is the maker of the TEMBOTUSK. It's a way to cook. It's a sponsor of the show. Just wanted to cover that minor detail.
Yeah. So I had a combined inundation of people, not only and thank you to everybody that stopped by. I had people coming to view the new truck as it was its debut at Overland Expo West. I was involved with the cooking on the Scuttle for Jerry and the gang at TEMBOTUSK. Frank and I did a bunch of stuff for Outdoor by 4 magazine and some shout outs, and we were giving away some prizes and whatnot, getting people registered. So I had all that. I had a number of Patreon supporters of mine come by, and obviously, I got countless amounts of people coming by that follow me on YouTube and other social media. So it was super busy. And on top of that, Phil, I also was an instructor. So I was on 4 different classes over the weekend as well. So I was very busy. Let's just say that.
So I've been in Fred's Outdoor Expo booth many times. I've been in Jerry TEMBOTUSK booth many times. I've been in the do-it-yourself with you many times. And you just named 3 of the most popular people to visit in the whole Overland Expo. So my question to you is, you guys working together, did it seem like it slowed things down? It sped things up? It was a whole different animal? What?
I think us working together was great. I mean, it was one of the busiest corridors in the expo. I did for once, because I set time sort of windows where people could take tours of my truck during certain hours. So I did get an opportunity on Friday actually to walk around the venue, and I think I walked every single aisle up and down, which is probably the first. I very rarely get a chance to spend that much time walking around. we were definitely one of the busier scenes there for sure. Not that the whole thing wasn't busy as anything, but the numbers, I guess, came out this morning or yesterday. And it looks to me like they were just shy attendance of last year. It did not. I believe last year was 30,400 people in attendance, ticket paying people, and this year was 29,500. So I think they were 900 shy of last year's. What I saw from numbers.
Yeah, and from my understanding, the exhibitors, there was a slight bump up.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit more exhibitors, and I will tell you, Friday and Saturday were busy, extremely busy. Friday in particular was far busier than I've ever seen it. Sunday was a slow day. I think, to be honest, I think after Saturday they probably anticipated they were going to set a new record, and then Sunday was, I would say Sunday was a much quieter day than I would have anticipated, particularly since the weather was good.
So the numbers are attendees 29,500, registered exhibitors 415, 119 presenters, trainers, and VIPs, over 100 journalists and 42 staff, 318 classes, seminars, demos, and activities. So this place was rocking.
It was definitely rocking, and that's not counting all the after-hour parties and the happy hours and the moto party that I got to attend on Friday night, and just a whole mess of stuff going on.
I'm looking at the numbers and I'm thinking, I'm like, that's bigger than a Michael Jackson concert. That's a Michael Jackson concert that lasted 3 days.
Yeah, that's what it felt like, which is why I don't have much of a voice right now.
I heard you cooked at the TEMBOTUSK Outdoor X4 Drive the Globe exhibit or booth.
Yes, we did. Yes, we sure did.
How many times did you cook?
Well, officially on live, I did it once, but we were cooking. Oh, I don't know how many times. Quite a few. We cook a lot, and we had guests coming over to cook almost every hour on the scuttle. So it was a lot of fun.
So for the audience, tell what your meal was. Candy already told me what you made, and I saw it on Instagram. You can go look on Instagram and actually see you cooking for those who are curious.
Yeah, Candy was my sous chef for that. We kind of raided the refrigerator, quite honestly, which, by the way, is what I wanted to show people. Is that what you can do, right? Because I live full time on the road and cook on the thing all the time, and I don't always have a lot of plans. So I was kind of the fill-in when all the celebrity chefs, in between. So I said, Jerry, I'll take that slot. We can do that. So we rummaged the refrigerator. So it turned out that we made I'm going to call it a Cajun meat lovers spicy rice dish. So we used like spicy sausage and chicken and bacon and, oh God, I don't know what else, egg and some dirty rice. And it was a winner. I'll tell you, it was one of the better rice dishes I've done on that scuttle in quite some time.
Well, I've eaten your rice dish many times. I heard there were some special meats in this particular one.
There was some good meat in this one. Yep, this was a good one. And by the way, there was a lot of great chefs that came over. Marco came over and did his oh God, he had a Wagyu beef sliders that he did. Wow, that was amazing too. There was a number of different people that came. Oh, they did deep fried Oreos. We had all sorts of stuff going on there. Oh yeah.
Okay. As far as, let's go into some gear a little bit. Was there any gear or vehicle that stood out to you for any reason, good or bad?
Things I noticed just off the top of my head. Because I'm new to the States, I just came back from Mexico. I saw my first Tesla Cybertruck was there at Expo. The new Gen 6 4Runner was there at Expo, so I got to see that in person. Um, it was inundated. And when I say inundated, I mean inundated with INEOS Grenadiers. There were hundreds of them there. And I didn't even know that they made a pickup. Did you know that, Phil? I didn't even know they had that. They had a pickup one there. Yeah. So I got to see those. They were all over the place. So from a truck perspective, that's what I saw. Gear wise, this is from talking to some vendors, and you and I have talked about this on other podcasts, the state of the economy in the US, and maybe the softness and the softening of the expensive overland market. I saw more, I'm going to call it lower priced merchandising going on than I have in other expos. So let me give you an example. Even at in my booth partners, which was super fantastic. TEMBOTUSK had hats and T-shirts and coasters and cool swagwear that in past shows you didn't see as many vendors doing that. You saw mostly just high-priced ticket items of stuff. So that is probably indicative of a little bit of an economic shift where, not everybody wants to drop, thousands and thousands of dollars potentially on a trailer or, and big, goose gear set up inside the back of their truck or whatever, So you see there was a little bit more merchandising going on.
So I made this prediction to you about 2 years ago, and I said in about 2 years this was going to happen. And that is the softening of the, how did you state it? The more expensive stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think it's what I said? I think it's basically, it is the economy, but not in the way it's being described. It's not that people are just tired of buying expensive stuff. A lot of these leases, a lot of these balloon payments, a lot of these finance deals that people have made for these expensive vehicles, they're coming home to roost. I believe that's what's happening. I believe that's what the softening is.
My prediction is that last year was the record attendance. Let's just take West for a second, Overland Expo West, without the rest of them. I think last year was their record attendance. Obviously, this year they didn't quite hit it. I don't think they're ever going to hit that again. I think last year was the peak. I think.
Do you remember saying that?
Yeah.
Do you remember predicting that to me?
Yeah. And I'm not saying that it's going to, drastically go down or anything, but I don't know where that trajectory looks like, but I think we're past the peak. I think we're on the downslope.
I would agree with that. And it's not all like the gear companies and the automotive companies' fault or Overland Expo's fault. It's that there's so many things. It's more the economy, and the economy in different ways.
Yeah.
Some people just literally don't have the time now because they're spending so much time at work. People have basically gone back to work. Those who are going back to work have gone back to work. Companies that were going to require you to come back they've all called in that card and told people to come back now. So I think that's one thing. Some people just don't have the time that they had before. Everybody I talked to like last year had a job where as long as they had a computer and a phone, it didn't matter where they were.
Yeah.
That's becoming less and less.
There's also let me because you know how we do this on our podcast, we go down the path of the negative road, but let me give you the side of this that I see too. Not that it's necessarily negative, but there's been a how would I say this? It's getting a little bit watered down. Let's just say that there's more competition both in the event market space. There's more competition, obviously, in the vendor space of every kind. And the OGs, let's call it the OGs, Overland Expo being an OG, and many of the participants that have been doing it like I have for so many years, it's changed a lot. So I'm going to give you one big example that I noticed this year. Overland Expo West did not have any vehicle training. So no off-road course, no motorcycle off-road course. That's all gone. The classroom and classes offered has shrunk. And one of the things that contributes to, interestingly enough, I was on a panel. One of my classes was a panel on overlanding and conservation, and I was maybe over my head, intimidated, because my panel mates were none other than Roseanne Hanson, the founder of Overland Expo, the Arizona, or don't quote me on this because I think this is her title, but the Arizona director of Tread Lightly. Let's just put it this way: everybody that was anybody in the world of conservation was on this panel, and me, who was like a full-time overlander. So I guess that I was that guy. But we talked about this, and one of the things Roseanne actually brought up was, from the old days of Overland Expo, it was always about training, and people would come and learn and go to classes, and then even do hands-on with their vehicle and drive, and they would learn how to correctly drive an overland rig. And then when they took that out into the wilderness, they knew, it's not all about power. It's, you don't park on grass and dry grass. You learn all these concepts. And the problem is that this stuff is taken away, because we were talking a lot about conservation and, trails getting closed due to trash and toilet paper all over the place, and people tearing it up with side-by-sides and all this other destruction that's going on. Well, a lot of this is like, people are just uneducated. And since the pandemic, there's been more and more people going out into the wilderness, and they just don't know. A lot of these people don't know. So now, if you take a big organization like Overland Expo, that not only has a lot of people that attend it, but also has influence over other events that are not theirs, but people tend to copy them, right? And they have gone a direction of steering farther away from, well, let's just cut to the chase. It's become almost SEMA in a field.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So where do we go from here? And, I don't have all the answers, but I will tell you that was one of the things that I noticed. They sent me a thing to give my feedback on the event. And that's one of the things I said. I go, I'm seeing a shift away from education, and a shift away particularly from in-vehicle education. And that worries me a lot.
There's also another part too. There are only, you mentioned the old days. Back in the day, you'd go to events like this, and what made it special was everybody was this unique person. And what I mean by that is that they had a passion and a love for travel and getting out there. We were all on the same exact page, and there wasn't too much of a variance other than where you wanted to go. Now, what has increased the numbers was, one, the COVID and the freedom that a lot of people had for the first time, but they weren't truly passionate about it. So in my opinion, there'll always be that 20% of us who this is life. This is everything to us. And the whole other 80% is going to rotate out. It's going to be people, hey, I think that's cool. Try it for a year or two and move out. I think that's what's going to happen moving forward.
There's less focus on travel, and there's more focus on tweaking trucks. I mean, I think that's the big difference. Mm-hmm. Is that the focus has been on gear, and maybe not so originally. Let me use my booth mate again as an example. TEMBOTUSK, the Scottle, that was created for a need Jerry created this for a need, right? He wanted to have a perfect cook gear to do what? To be able to travel with and go out and use it. But what has shifted is I see a lot of new swag involved with tweaking vehicles. It's not necessarily about travel. And you and I have talked about this a lot, particularly some of these crazy upgrades that they do, I could show you pictures. I walked around the thing of some of these things, and let's be cut to the chase. They're coming in on a flatbed. These trucks and things are being transported to Expo on a flatbed, put in a booth, put their tires up in the air, highlighting whatever product it is. End of Expo on Sunday, they roll those suckers out, put them back on the flatbed, and back they go to wherever. You can't. I mean, the reason they come in on flatbeds, you can't drive the freaking thing anywhere.
Right.
It ain't made to travel.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
I told you guys I was going to cough. Oh, hold on.
You are so right. I cannot believe it. But that's not a new thing. Me and you and others, usually we hang out after on Sundays once things are shutting down. And we're usually right there by the road, so we can see every vehicle coming and going. And we see very few single vehicles driving past. We see flatbeds.
Yep.
We've even seen like 16-wheelers.
And that's why I say that it's become more SEMA. So, and I'm not dissing SEMA. I've been to SEMA. What is SEMA for? SEMA is a product show to debut things that may never happen. Some of it's fantasy, but it's to show cool, new, innovative things, which by definition is how we progress, right? This is how we move forward. Those are not necessarily for travel, right? They're not time-proven things. So when you take a show that has always been about proven things, where you got people that have traveled the world with proven vehicles and proven motorcycles and proven sets of gear, and we all share, our love of adventure and whatnot, and that comes together and that becomes a show, and then it morphs into what's more like SEMA, where I saw lots of people out there with brand new products. Try this thing. It's like, great, but it's never been tested other than loading the truck onto the semi rig. And then and many of these things are going to, let's be honest, are going to drive to Walmart. They're going to look shiny and clean all the time. And they're never actually going to go anywhere. God forbid a national park, and certainly not out of the country, or certainly not, like a Patty Upton and go through the Darien Gap. They're not going to do any of these things. So it was interesting. Funny. I mentioned Patty Upton. She's in the Guinness Book of World Records for going around the world, going through the Darien Gap with her husband in a Jeep. And a buddy of mine was setting her up in the showcase vehicle section this year, and he drove the Jeep from, and you know how it's laid out in Flagstaff there, that it was parked over by, like, I don't know where the off-roading used to be, and he had to move it to the thing. So we're talking about, maybe a quarter of a mile. He drives the Jeep from over there, comes around, puts in showcase. He gets out. I go, how's that thing? He goes, dude, I'm hurting just coming from the parking lot. He goes, I can't even imagine driving this thing into downtown Flagstaff, let alone around the world. That's badass, and just the comparison between that thing and these things that they're loading on a flatbed.
Right.
There, my friends, is the change. And that's what I'm talking about. They had no gear whatsoever.
Unfortunately, this evolution was inevitable.
Yeah.
There's like I said, there's a finite amount of people who are into what we're into. And if you want to increase your customer base, you're going to have to appeal to them.
Yep.
And most people see a shiny new thing and hey, let's go.
The question I have and the OGs, they were all here, Graham Jackson and all the regulars, Scott Brady and, Marco and Mario and, all the people that we've known over the years. I mean, they're all still there. We're all there. We're just diluted, right? The question I have, and this begs, because I'm going to tell you, just trust me when I tell you, there's going to be more Overland Expos. There's going to be more. So my question is, and the problem is dilutes it further, right? Because at some point, take any vendor, name a vendor, they can only afford to go to so many shows. And they can only afford to travel a certain amount of days a year, right? They got to, at some point, they got to be back making their product, right? So, and obviously there's competition out there. There's other events going on. So it's interesting. So this is a rhetorical question. Is Overland Expo trying to do more events with less attendance? Or do they think that they're going to be able to do more events and get even bigger attendance at each one? I don't know. But I will tell you, stay tuned. There's going to be more than 4. And there's going to be, and it's going to be more competition, because I'm aware of like a couple other events that haven't even been announced yet that are going to be on your horizons, that are coming at you very quickly. So, and obviously there's a room now for what I'm going to call the old school Overland Expo, for somebody to start doing an old school one that more focuses on what we used to focus on 10 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, I've heard the rumors of everything that you said. Not only that, I've actually gotten media invitations to some of these things. We've even discussed some of those offline. I think that's a direct correlation to, I believe that's the reason they're going to do the other ones. Because some people, the mentality is, well, if I live in Chicago, I'll go to I don't want to mention other people,
right.
But there's one in the Midwest that's very popular. I'll go to that one.
Yep.
And after I've gone to that one, I'm not going to drive all the way to West or East or whatever. So,
and a feeling like that, it's become geographic.
Right. But I believe they're doing like what Amazon does. They'll get into a market basically to squeeze you out.
Right.
So
how do you have vendors? But okay, but like let's take hopefully Jerry doesn't listen to this. No. Let's take Jerry at TEMBOTUSK example. I mean, there's going to be a limit at how many events that he can possibly attend.
Right.
So what happens when Overland Expo has 12 locations? I mean, Jerry can't do all of those.
And I believe a lot of vendors will be in that situation.
I agree. All of them probably.
But that will open up room for some of the people who go to these other events who are exhibitors to join the expo family.
Maybe.
So maybe I'm ABC Motors and I don't have the time or logistics to go to West, but I can go to the one in Pennsylvania. I'm thinking that the lesser ones, they can't charge as much as the bigger ones.
How does that work for the customer? How does that work for us as people, right?
I don't think it does work for the customer. It's an attraction to the vendors, though. Overland Expo has become like it has become like Soho in New York City. Pretty much, if you are in fashion, you can be selling stuff all over the world, but you're nobody until you have a store in New York, a flagship store. So Overland Expo, in my opinion, has become like that flagship place. You're not a real vendor in the Overland community unless you exhibit.
Well, for sure. They're the premier event, right? Because they've done it well. I mean, and even through the transitions from Jonathan and Roseanne to Lodestone to Emerald now, it's improved from an organizational standpoint. There's no question. It's a professional operation. I mean, I'm not dissing the operation at all. And quite frankly, they're doing what makes money, which also makes sense. It's a business. So I don't have anything against it. I'm just I'm just talking out loud here I'm trying to put my attendee hat on. Not even as an instructor or as a vendor. What about the attendee? What do you think is the best for them?
Well, like you said, the key is they are a business. So every guest that I have on the trajectory of what's going on, I'm basing off case studies of other businesses and how things generally go. So another possibility is a lot of times when companies go into a fast, rapid growth mode, it's not because they see the growth, it's they're trying to make themselves the fat, juicy pig that everybody wants to bite. So Expo has been sold, twice already. They might be just plumping up the pig to sell it to the next company. That also could be one of the things.
Yeah, the other thing I noticed is it looks like what's going to happen is that each of these are going to be branded as Overland Expos, but from what I can tell, each location are going to be unique and different. Whereas before they were all the same, right? They tried to do the same program in each venue. So I'll give you an example. So in Pacific Northwest right now, they're testing out a new, I don't know what they're going to call it. I haven't looked online. The Overland experience where you get to drive. That is actually going to happen in Oregon. It did not happen in West. So they're testing out potentially doing each event as different. So in fact, they were marketing, if you want to, do the experience, go to Pacific Northwest, don't go to West. So that's a little bit different. And it's possible that some of these are going to become more SEMA based, where I'm not even sure that there's not going to be an Overland Expo that might be indoors.
Wow, that would be weird.
It would be, but I can see that happening. I think what they're doing a little bit is testing different modes of operation and seeing which ones work, and potentially in different places they may work differently. So that'll be interesting to keep a thing on. I've heard rumors that speaking of sales, that there is some concern, I think, about Pacific Northwest. I don't think it's done as well as they anticipated it doing from the beginning, and I think that we may see a soft year there. That's some of the rumor I've heard.
And what do you mean a soft year?
Attendance wise, both attendance and just in general. And I don't know that could mean attendance from people coming by day, but also it's one of the things I think from talking to the vendors, and I think maybe Overland Expo didn't anticipate as much, although that is a great area for you and I, and it is probably a premier area for travel. What did we just end up talking about? That's not the focus, right? It's not a great area for a trade show.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
It's too far away. So Arizona is a better location. Quite frankly, so is Colorado. It's far out. There's a lot of vendors that are coming out of the Colorado, Arizona area, Southern California. So
I never thought about that, but I believe you're so on point on what you're saying, because I really don't. If I had to in a rush get to Bend or Redmond, Oregon, I would not enjoy that drive.
Right.
I enjoy the drive because me, I'll take 2 days to drive that 8-hour drive.
That's right. But think about it.
It's not. It's like hours away from I-5.
The bread and butter, Phil, is vendors, right? Vendor fees, the vendors paying, and day pass people. So if you got to bring all these vendors in, if it's farther for vendors to get to. So once again, let's throw Jerry under the bus at TEMBOTUSK. his setup in Oregon is not as big as the one in Flagstaff, right? Flagstaff is closer. He's got a smaller setup. So obviously there's less dollars involved in Oregon. And he's not alone. I mean, that's true of a lot of different vendors. And then day pass people, your population density, say in Flagstaff. I mean, think how close you are to Phoenix and the major metropolitan areas. Your day pass people coming in, there's more people.
Yeah, because like West, one of the things for the general public that is great is you literally are a few minutes away from downtown Flagstaff, Arizona. Every
There's tons of
accoutrement,
hotels,
yeah,
tons of restaurants. Yep.
whatever you want is, I can go to Whole Foods, I can go to Apple, I can go to McDonald's, whatever.
Yep.
And then I can drive 5 minutes and I can be in the forest and take the forest and continue on all the way down to the border of Arizona.
I mean, it's ideal. I camped out the day after in Flagstaff down in the BLM land. It was great. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and not that Redmond doesn't have that, but Redmond does not have the facilities that Flagstaff has. Bend does, but Bend is not right there. Bend's still, half an hour or more away.
But the big difference is you have 40 running right through Expo.
Yeah.
Like I said, Pacific Northwest, the major highway is I-5, and that's hours away.
Hours away, yeah.
By the at some point, depending upon where you're coming from, you're taking one-lane highways.
Yeah.
If you're in California and you say, I'm not taking I-95, I'm taking 395 and
Right.
come up, portions of that are single-lane highway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's good. It's a great point. And I think that's the difference. So it'll be interesting to see if, Overland Expo #2, which is coming up in 5 weeks from now. I'm super curious to see what their numbers are this year compared to last year. Even more curious than I was about West. And I will tell you, halfway through Friday at West, I was like, oh, it's going to be pretty similar to the year before. And it was. It came out pretty similar.
So I don't think that they should get rid of Pacific Northwest if the numbers don't jive. I just think the venue needs to change. Like
I don't know. I mean, I think the venue's great.
No, I don't mean because of the actual venue. I mean because they need to find a venue that's closer to like the highway, closer to a major airport.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just changed the model and it's a smaller event. Maybe smaller event. For all we know, maybe they're looking to do smaller events, more of them. I don't know. I don't really know what the concept is. So we'll see.
I'm not going to say their names on air, but like I told you, I've been invited to some of these new things that are popping up.
Yeah, I have as well.
And then there are some that are already in place that have been running for a few years now that are actually pretty popular and everything. And I believe that if Expo does what you're saying that they're going to do, they will squeeze a few of these guys out, especially.
Or buy them. I mean, that's an option too.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So, Mike, I think that Pacific Northwest is going to have a record number, and even though I agree with everything that you said.
Okay.
And the only reason is because the Pacific Northwest is so thirsty for events like this that I believe that we in the region are going to so heavily support it that it will have great numbers.
Well, I'm going to agree with you. You know why? Because the truck that's sitting right behind me is going to debut at Pacific Northwest in the Storyteller Pavilion by the Classrooms. So come see it. It's your chance to see that in Oregon. So we're going to be packed just for that.
So we keep talking about Pacific Northwest. I guess we should go ahead and give it's June 28th through 30th. at the Deschutes County Expo Center in Redmond, Oregon.
That is correct. That is right. It's about 5
And
weeks away.
we will both be there. I can't speak for Mike, but Pacific Northwest one is my favorite out of all of the expos.
I got to agree with you there, Phil. I mean, I love the venue. I love the area. I personally like it a little bit less of a hectic scenario that Flagstaff is. Flagstaff is just chaos. So I like it. I love it.
If you're the kind of person who you get in your car, you stay at a hotel, then you drive to Flagstaff and you stay at a hotel and then you drive in, and if you're that type of person, then you probably won't benefit from going to Pacific Northwest the most. But if you're the type like us who we get there a few days earlier, we may have actually been on a trip or a journey, and this is just one of the waypoints along the way. I think Overland Expo Pacific Northwest is the most ideal one, because like the last year that we hooked up and you drove through all of Oregon, you would have never had that experience going to any of the other events.
Oh, no, for sure.
And there's so much to do afterwards. So if you're looking for not just to go to Expo, because some people make it a trip. That's how I even came upon Overland Expos. It was just a place to go on a much bigger trip.
Yep.
If you're
on that note, I would give you the other side too. I mean, if you want to fly into it, the airport is like right on the other side of the venue. There's a hotel
across the street.
I know. There's a hotel right there attached to the other side of the venue. I mean, you could fly in, not rent a car, and go and be fine too.
And I just thought about it. You actually did that.
I did last year. Yep.
That's how we saw. We were in the hotel and the parking lot was full of flatbeds.
That's right. Yep. But this year I will be there with the truck.
I understand bringing your showpiece on a flatbed. You want to keep it clean. You don't want it to break down on the way. But I agree with what you said. The majority of them are not roadworthy.
No. It's different. Yep.
So, Mike, I know this was hard on you. You were sick this week. You just finished the expo. You probably wore out. So thanks for doing the podcast on such a short notice.
It's good to be back.
I was going to talk about the INEOS Grenadier, but I think in our last podcast, we covered just about whatever you could cover about the INEOS Grenadier. But I do have one question. What was the response to it from what you saw?
Oh, I think the response is great. I will tell you that most of the rigs that were there are owned by vendors. So almost all the vendors, like Overland Gear Guy, a good example of this, bought one, to promo his business, whatever. I think that's pretty. There's going to be a lot of stuff built around it, so that makes it a valuable vehicle to get, because there's going to be a lot of upgrades that you can do to it. Very similar to the old Defenders. So I think the response was very good. I think the thing is super cool, if you ask me. I mean, it's got a few challenges to it, certainly, but to just the rear doors, the way they open and stuff, I think that thing is cool. I really like it.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to let you go, but I want to tell the people what I plan for us to talk about in our next conversation in the podcast. Next time you see us guys talking together, we're going to cover in detail the differences. And if you're a person that's interested in overlanding and getting a vehicle, between getting a vehicle that's bought, built, or built by someone else.
That's a great conversation.
I know you guys had that conversation at Overland Expo. I would like to take it online and expound upon it. So, because I think out of all of the decisions, that's probably the second or third most important decision you're going to make in your overlanding journey.
Agreed.
So I
Good
said
podcast,
second,
so
and
stay tuned, guys.
I said second, so you didn't doubt me. What would you put it first?
Just go and do it. I always put that first. It's not what
So
you're going to.
we're kind of the same. I believe the first is planning to put yourself in a situation to be able to do it.
Do it. That's right. Yeah. Yep.
Any last words, Mike?
No, good to be back. Glad to be talking to you guys. Glad to actually have at least 60% of my voice. And we'll see you all here on the podcast next week.
So it sounds like Overland Expo West was another success. It sounds like it was fun and it was worth going to. You know what I'm going to say? Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on a trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.